Hello everyone and welcome back to my playthrough of Defense Grid. This is not mission 15. This is, since this is more of a walkthrough that I'm doing with Defense Grid than it is a playthrough, I thought I'd go ahead and go through all the towers and their effectiveness as a kind of review and explanation as to why I do specific things that I do now that we've unlocked them all. Command Tower was the last one in mission 14. If you guys are not interested in this, go ahead and skip ahead. Mission 15 should be the next video in this playlist. And if you are interested in what I have to say, then stick around, because here we go. The way to get to information about both towers and aliens, actually, is going to Help and Options and going to the Tower Encyclopedia for the towers and the Alien Encyclopedia for aliens. And the way it works is, you may have noticed this already while I've been playing, how towers kind of shift from green, yellow to red. As a matter of fact, I think in one of the first videos I explained that when they could be upgraded. So over here on the left, it shows the attack range and rate of fire and how good they are at those three things at each level. Obviously, this yellow bar here up to this point is their attack whenever they're in yellow, and in red is whenever they're upgraded to level 3. So let's go ahead and go through these. I'm not going to bother to read through this. It's just pretty much saying, well, that's not true. I can read this part. It is weak versus groups, but strong versus shields, and good versus flyers. Alright, so yeah, right off the bat there, especially with some of the new aliens we're getting that give shields to other, you want guns. I mean, the versatility, which they mention right here, is absolutely essential on any map. I mean, the fact that they're so cheap to begin with, they get the job done well enough attack-wise when they're level 3 as well, and by then you've probably got a large group, and it's not like it costs that much to upgrade them that far. The range never really gets that great, but I mean, there's nothing. You've seen me play these levels. You need these towers. You need lots of them, and you need them upgraded to level 3. They're essential for clusters, everything. And I say that the weak versus groups things can be easily handled by building lots of them, since they're so cheap. And I don't really rely on them for flyers. I would sooner rely on cannons or, obviously, the missile tower. Here's the cannon. Yeah. See, the main benefit of upgrading these is obviously the rate of fire. They're so slow to begin with. Their attack starts off really good, but they're so slow to begin with. And expensive, though. That's their biggest thing. It's twice as expensive in every way, including upgrades, as the gun towers. Obviously, I use these things. They're perfect for juggernauts. Absolutely perfect, because juggernauts move slow, these fire slow, but they're powerful. Juggernauts have lots of HP. They kind of like mesh together perfectly. I also find that although rumblers are weak to fire, that these are great. If you build these in a place where they can shoot while the rumbler is being slowed down by a temporal, they are way better at taking out rumblers than anything else, as fast as they may be. Later on, we run into some more and more boss types of monsters, and a lot of them have a lot of HP, and cannons are just great. Yeah, they say they're not very effective at stopping tight groups. Definitely better for one-on-one type things. I use these just about as often as I do gun towers when it comes to maps. I mean, they'll end up in every single map. There's not going to be a map where I don't use both gun towers and cannon towers. It just won't happen. Alright, the Inferno Tower, as you could tell, especially in the early ones, absolutely essential for taking out groups. But it is not good for shields at all. It does nothing to shields, and therefore is losing its purpose as the levels move on. The range and rate of fire is constant. Range is small. Rate of fire is constant. It's literally constant. It's both constant in upgrades and constant because it just constantly fires. And the attack never really gets that good. It is, I mean, I could be using it more often for groups because as far as, like, versus concussion towers or meteor towers, it's extremely cheap, and it can take care of groups very well. But no, the only benefit I get from these, in my personal opinion, is versus things weak to fire, and one of those happens to be rumblers. Anything fast is weak to fire, and you know, fire does damage over time, so if you do want to use these, definitely place them near the beginning of the map, because well, that has a caveat as well. If you put them near the beginning of the map, the fire can do damage to them over time as they continue to pass through. If you put them at the beginning of the map, anything with a shield will not have lost its shield yet. So maybe you can find some middle ground. Maybe make a cluster of towers specifically for taking out shields, and then the Inferno Tower. Or you can just mix and match. You put gun towers next to this, now your shields aren't going to be a problem. You know, but I really don't find that much use for them. I'd sooner use a Meteor Tower, as much as they cost. Here's the Concussion Tower. You know, the attack is extremely misleading. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but a well-placed Concussion Tower is absolutely devastating. That's why it costs so much. You might think to yourself, well, gee, look at this attack. Its range is constant like the Inferno. It's horrible. Like, yeah, the Inferno does more. But that's bullcrap. If you make it to where aliens have to walk around the Concussion Tower, it is absolutely devastating, even to big things. I saw a guy online. He used nothing but Concussion Towers on like this one form. You know, besides story and story mode and story challenge mode, there's a whole bunch of different other modes. Like you can only build green towers, you can only build tin towers, so on and so forth. There's one where there's 99 waves, and they just keep getting stronger and stronger, and they become ungodly strong. This guy handled the last like 30 waves from the 70s to the 90s with Concussion Towers, and it was on the last level, so they were really powerful aliens, and the Concussion Towers just handled them all, and he had like gun towers there to make mazes and whatnot, and you cannot underestimate these Concussion Towers. Initially, you think to yourself they're useless. If you ever just sat down and used them and placed them in such a way that aliens have to walk around them, or build a temporal right behind it so that they have to walk around it while slowed, absolutely devastating. Hardly anything better for groups. No, Meteor Towers don't stand a chance. So I like concussions, but they have their places, and other times they don't. Range is a huge factor, and but the biggest factor of all is obviously the cost. Absolutely expensive. I think they are the most expensive. Yeah, they're even more expensive than Meteor Towers. Whew. So yeah, that's energy class. What are the yeah, projectiles? Projectiles seem to be good against shields. Fire seems to be good against speed things. Energy seems to be good against everybody. And meteor counts as fire, but I found that is pretty useful against shields. I guess it's just that the damage is so high. And obviously you can see right here. Look at this attack power, especially when fully upgraded. Whew. And their range starts off at max. Absolutely fantastic tower. I used to spam these things all over the place until I learned the benefit of guns and how cheap they are, and this was back before I wanted gold medals and whatnot. You kind of have to build these in a more moderate fashion if you want gold medals, just because they'll eat up your resources pretty fast. But yeah, on big maps, Mission 15 is going to be a big map where I'm going to want at least one meteor tower. For big maps, there's really no better way to handle groups than to place a meteor tower right in the center of your maze, and as the groups are walking around, they're just getting devastated by these meteors. And I don't really know if they're fire. I've never seen them catch anything on fire, so they don't do damage over time like Infernos do. And lasers set things on fire as well, but meteor towers, I've never seen them do it. But they're very powerful and useful beyond groups, but that's obviously what they're mainly for. The range makes them useful just so so very useful. If you're running low on resources, or the map's too big to find a really good use for a concussion tower, or it's got like a predefined path, like a road that the aliens walk on, go with the meteor instead for groups, because they'll cover the entire map with their range. Just do damage to even enemies they're not specialized for, and help out the other things like gun towers and whatnot. I haven't been going over what can shoot flyers. So far, the only thing that can shoot flyers are the guns and the cannons. These other three have not been able to shoot flyers. Here's the missile. The missile is the only one that can be fully upgraded in all areas. Problem is, it can only shoot flyers. But, you know, the rate of fire and attack at level 3, flyers aren't getting by. There are some maps where you'll find yourself needing 3 or 4 fully upgraded missile towers in order to be able to take care of all the flyers, and even then the missile towers might be getting help from gun towers. But if your map has flyers, easiest way to take care of them, these. It's pretty much worth the cost of a tower that does nothing but handle flyers for 2 reasons. One, it takes guns and cannons, which can shoot both ground and flyers. If you really want them to focus on a huge swarm that's getting a little too close to the cores and you don't like it, but then some flyers come in, they'll probably focus on the flyers. You'll want them focusing on the ground units instead. Well, put the missiles there, they'll take care of the flyers, and then your guns and cannons can just focus on the ground units and do all the damage that you want. The other reason is simply to just put the missile tower in the path of the flyers. Then you don't have to worry about flyers anymore whatsoever. Whenever you're looking up at the waves that are coming in on the radar, you can just ignore anything flyer related because you've already got your missile towers there. And as long as you keep them upgraded well enough, you can. This is actually only practical if you already know like the waves that are going to end up coming, because if you do build a missile tower and you just kind of ignore the flyers, you might find your cores missing. But yeah, ideally you're going in, especially in story challenge mode, with some idea. Never hurts to build an extra missile tower. I mean, they're not that expensive in comparison to things like meteors. They're well worth any map where you've got flyers. At least consider building a missile tower. Here's the temporal. Best way I have always found to handle things is to build towers that aliens have to walk by twice and build clusters. And what I've always meant when I say build clusters is that you've got a bunch of towers around a temporal tower. For one temporal tower, you can like triple the effectiveness of all the towers around it, as the enemies are just utterly slowed like crazy. And if you increase the range all the way, that's more time that the enemies are slow, more time for your towers to hit. You put 3 gun towers fully upgraded, nice. You put a temporal behind them, 10 times as nice. On story challenge mode, if you want to make sure that you get enough not story challenge mode, for gold medals, if you want to make sure that you got enough resources left over, you have to build as few towers as possible. But then later on, in some levels, you're just finding yourself missing the firepower. So, best way to increase the firepower of towers already built, build a temporal, aliens are slowed down. Always, I'll probably always use temporals, just like I will always use guns and cannons. They're perfect.